Thank you. So I'm Zach. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to. I post pretty awesome things sometimes. Other times not so much, but whatever. Anyways, so I'm going to talk about shoes. Before I do that, I just want to say quickly thank you to everyone involved at this conference, the organizers, the sponsors, anyone who had anything to do with me being here. Thanks so much. All of the attendees for showing up and putting on this great thing. So I just want to give another round of applause for everyone involved. So what is Shoes? I'm just going to get right into it. Shoes is basically a toolkit in Ruby for building desktop applications. So anytime you want something actually on your computer that's installable that you want to build or whatever for fun. Doesn't have to necessarily be like enterprise or whatever related, but if you want to build something that lives on your computer and maybe connects to the internet indirectly, but doesn't have to be something that is a web app, right? It's like every day we build web apps, most of us on Rails or whatever, in most cases. So Shoes is nice because you don't have to worry about all these other things, right? Like you don't have to worry about databases, you don't have to worry about HTML or JavaScript, you just worry about Ruby. And that's really like the beauty of it, because most of us know and love Ruby so much at this point. So if there's something that we can do to just work with Ruby directly, it's usually a great thing. So let me show you a few examples here quickly. Like you can build some applications. Oops. That's like a text editor. This is a calculator. If I zoom in here, I can do 8 divided by 6, and that's 1. That's a terrible example. I think this is a to-do list, so I can do something like finish my talk for ArrrrCamp. And I think I'm done with that, so I can mark that one done. And I can be like, get sleep, because I got 3 hours of sleep last night. Not done. Not done sleeping. I'll probably do that later. Sounds like a good idea. What else can you do? Shoes, you can also do this. You can do this thing. So this is a game about tanks. You can drive your tank around with the mouse, and you can shoot stuff. Right? Can you see that? It's pretty sweet, right? I can lose at Pong. It's usually what happens. This is an intense game. I don't know. I might lose. Oh, I always lose Pong. I don't know why. Okay, yeah, so that's like an example of things you can make, right? How can you do this with shoes? What's the way to do this, right? So the next thing is why the Lucky Stiff gave us the 10 gifts of shoes, and he talked about it in his book, one of his books, and I don't know why my slides are cut off, but this says shoes. Anyways, oh, I'm zoomed in still. There we go. Yeah, so he gives us these things, right? He talks about it in depth in his book. But basically what you have is you have like text processing things. You have form elements and like buttons, and you can organize like stacks and flows are the basic way of how you like lay out the presentation of these elements on the screen. So you have stacks and flows, and what basically stacks are stacking elements, right? And flows are horizontally flowing elements next to each other. So, and it just works like by blocks. Like I'll show you some code in a minute. But this is the general idea, these main things, right? You can do everything from text processing, image stuff, animation, graphics. It's all good with shoes. And so what else? If you want to know more, I just mentioned the book. This is the URL. There's a super echo in here. This is the website. And this is the source code, and there's another source, GitHub repository with a lot of examples and stuff on there. So why do we do this? Why are shoes important still? Why? I mentioned briefly that like it's nice because you can just write Ruby, right? But why, if someone didn't know Ruby, why would they pick this thing up, right? Why does it matter? And my answer to this question is really, I really don't have an answer, but I guess the best answer I could give is it's fun, right? We work every day like tirelessly on like these huge applications and like trying to scale these things as much as we can and all these other boring things. And it's just nice to like work on something that like doesn't matter for once. Just something you just do because you want to do it, right? Like this is why we all got into computers, because our parents had a compact Presario in the basement, and we would go down there and like watch YouTube videos or whatever your start was. You know, we all got into this because we like to do it. You know, so that's why I like shoes. It takes me back to those days when I could just like open a text editor and just start hacking away and it didn't matter. And it was basically started because, you know, why the lucky stiff? God rest his soul. He started this project called Hackety Hack, and he wanted to teach kids how to learn Ruby. And it was a great way because he had all these awesome lessons and things, and all you had to do was just like install this thing, and you had a full programming language at your disposal. And so he actually extracted shoes out of that just to make development of these things easier for people. And before he left, you know, he left us off at a pretty good place. It was also very hard to deal with. It was like heavy C code, and it was very complicated, and no one really knew how it worked. And so the next version of shoes that some people are working on now via the Google Summer of Code project will be JRuby based. So I think it's using SWT, which is like some toolkit in Java that's supposed to be pretty good. And from there, I think it's like, there's a number of people, and it's on Shoes GitHub organization. I think it's like Shoes 4. And you can look at and track the progress of that. But from there, it basically started as like an implementation of Shoes on JRuby, right? So it's fresh start, all new code, it's all Ruby, very easy to use. I will say that all the stuff that I showed you and all the stuff that I'm going to write is the old Shoes. So I actually can't, I don't know, for some reason I can't run the JRuby Shoes. It works for most people. I can't for some reason. I just have like the 99th percentile dissolution. It just doesn't work. Anyways, I want to write some code. Before I do that, I need a drink. I'm parched. All right, onward, 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 onward. So the first thing I'm going to do is a drawing application, which is just fun. So I set up a few things for myself at first. So I'm going to require helpers draw, which is like a little helper module I built. So I don't have to do like a whole lot of work for this. I actually gave this talk last week, and I've forgotten all of these things about this time into my talk. Luckily, this time I'm prepared, so all of you at this can see this part effectively. I'm getting it right this time, but I like to extract my applications and Shoes out into the classes. Just makes it easier to write and set things up. So I'll need like, so the drawing app is gonna have like a color picker, and you'll be able to select like the width of the line and the color, and this is gonna be the color. This will be the picker. And then always start by passing in the Shoes app so that you can draw things to it. So we used to set that as app, and then we're gonna do a setup method. Our setup method is gonna look pretty basic. The first thing I wanna do is give myself a default white background, because I thought it would be funny if all the backgrounds were like this off gray color. So I didn't like that. So I just want a white background. Very simple. Right? So I'll just default these things. I probably do this in my initializer, but whatever. I think I do this because I call setup indirectly later. Yeah, so when we want to reset up the screen, we'll do these things. And then we can observe some stuff and act upon it. Oh, I can actually write code to this thing? That's crazy. Yeah, so the next step is I want to implement all of these things, right? I want to draw, picker, chooser, and the clear is this clear button that I'm going to have. And that's going to just like reset this screen so that I can draw again. So I'll have draw, chooser. And the shoes app has this thing like a list box. It's one of the elements, one of the form elements. And you can pass it items. And so for my width, I just want like an array of things. So I'm going to do like, give me 1 through 10 even numbers, and then like, or I think it'll end up being odd, but margin, just to put this off a little to the side. So I can pass in styles, and that's our chooser. Very simple. So draw picker will be we're going to draw a little square with the color we selected. And so we then need this thing, app. And we're just going to draw a rectangle. And we're going to put it up here. That's like a helper method. One of the things doesn't do a whole lot, very simple, but I can show you briefly. So like this drawing thing, yeah. So clear just runs the shoes clear method and then resets up the drawing board, right? And yeah, that's all for now. I can show you on that. Next thing I want to implement is the observers, which is the tricky part. So there's sort of like an event loop in shoes where you can, like now that I have like rectangles and list boxes and things, so there's certain events you can tie to these, and then like every time this event is fired, you can run a shoes like a Ruby block, an actual block in Ruby, like do end. So for instance, when we change the width, we'll just set the width. Very simple, like literally 2 lines, Ruby. And then when we pick a color, we're going to ask for a color. Let me like pick one. Alrighty, damn it. And then this thing, remember draw picker before, so once we pick a color, we just want to redraw that element. This is why I separate things into methods. Just makes it easier to redraw things. And then this method, draw observer, I don't know why I extracted that. I probably could have just showed you, but it just saved me a few lines. Next thing is motion. This is the tricky part. So it's going to give us 4 arguments, or 4 parameters back. And that's like width, height, whatever, x, w, y, all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm just going to append to the application. We're going to set the colors and the width. And then we're going to do app.line, and this just takes these parameters, like very straightforward. Oh, we might want to do this too, if drawing. So we only want to draw the line if drawing is true, which is set when the mouse is clicked, right? So click the mouse, draw a line. Let go of the mouse, don't draw a line. Gotta end some stuff here. I think one more. So many ends. Does it end? All right, then this is like the shoes part. So then I just do pass the shoes app to draw it on new, right? And then I can run this right here. Oh, attribute access. I typed something wrong. Let's try that. See, shoes has this nice console. It tells you what you did wrong, usually. All right, so I can pick a width, I can select a color, and I can draw stuff, right? Oh, I can't draw stuff. Draw observer, undefined method. Draw observer? Is it just draw observe? Yep. That's absurd. Why would I do that? Okay. Try this again. No. Draw observer. Draw stroke width. Stroked width. So stroked width is not a thing you can do. It's actually stroke width, I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's try that. Nope. What's the problem now? Too many shoes things going. Yeah, I'm just going to restart shoes. So it does this weird thing sometimes. Maybe that's it. It's not it. Sometimes it just like caches your whole app if you use like a class. It's like Ruby 1. We're talking like Ruby 1.8 here. This is like all kinds of problems embedded into this thing from like 10 years ago. But yeah, I don't know why this isn't working. It doesn't even give me an error, does it? What did I miss?
You did set margin left 2 times in the draw chooser methods, I think.
I did left? I did, didn't I? It's probably supposed to be top. But that wouldn't explain why, that would explain why the chooser is all messed up, but that wouldn't explain why it's not drawing when I click the thing, right? I click the mouse. Oh, that's why. Derp, derp, derp. I didn't end the right, there's too many ends, you know? Why Ruby? Blocks are cool, but okay. Hi. That's terrible. Arr. I'm not a good artist. So that's drawing. That's my first app. So thanks. Made it through the first one. Next one, it's a little more complicated. Actually, it might be better if I show you this first. So I wrote this app. Chewbacca. And it's, when I started, it was just like a command line application, like game thing, where I wanted to learn hiragana characters in Japanese, right? So I have like this hash table of all the characters and like their English equivalents. And then just asks for, it just picks one randomly and then says, all right, give me the equivalent answer, and I can show you what that looks like. This says enter, and then the equivalent, so this is E, and I win. I got that one right. Next one, oh, same one, what the heck? Okay, I think that's toe. All right. It sucks when I actually get them right. I don't know, I guess I've been practicing. But I want to make a shoes version of this, and I have a helper. so I don't have to write a whole ton of code. Oh, before I do this, actually, I'll show you something. Well, let me do this first. So I'm going to include game. Similar deal where I pass the application. And then I have this like super method that does a bunch of stuff. Pick. JRender? No. Render, pick. Pick, guess equals app. Edit. Line. 200. I might have to add a parentheses there. I don't know. App.button. So we're going to add a guess button. This is essentially the enter key, right? We recreate this. We're going to give this another width. I probably need a comma somewhere. How does this work? Check guess. Yeah, so I have like basically all these methods divvied out into my module to make it easier to understand, but we're going to pass the text, and then we're going to pass the pick. And if I show you this welcome thing, does a clear, so it clears the screen every time, and then has my logo, my continue button, and then yields the block, right? And then it has like a background image. So the block is do all these things. And so set a random pick. There's an image directory. I'll show you that after. And it picks a sample of that array, and then it renders it on the screen, right? So it just yields this block that I just wrote within that thing when that event happens, which is legit. So I want to implement check guess, and we're going to take the guess and the pick, right, from up here. So if the guess is the same as the pick, then we're going to say you win, right? Else, we can do an alert, and we say wrong, and we say the right one answer was pick. Like this just looks like Ruby code, right? We're not writing any crazy GUI stuff. The only difference is I extracted some things into modules, like all of this, but it's less than, it's 34 lines of code. Like that's plus 20 here. If I do this, my shoes app, the options, so I get my things correct, and then you can see only reason I define new game in the app because somewhere in here, yeah, when I wanted to restart, I wanted to recall the new game method, so I just left it in the app. But we can take a look at how this looks. Okay, so this is the start. This is why I needed like all these constraints on widths and heights and things, because I wanted to make it look pretty. And so same problem. Does anyone in the crowd might know what this one is? You get bonus points. Anyone? So? Good guess. It's supposed to restart there, but it doesn't. So let me show you quickly before I finish here. In my images folder, because remember shoes is 1.8 at this point when I'm working on this version, it doesn't have Unicode support. So I just converted all of the characters into images and then just picked a random one and just named them after the thing. Right. So I did that, and when you actually do like, it just takes the pick and then passes that to the image. Yeah. So anyways, I think that's it for me. Shoes is awesome. I'm glad I got to hack with you all, and thanks so much for having me. If you have any questions, you can find me later. Thanks.